Hello everyone. In this video we're going to be taking a look at an article from the Associated Press that was published on July 19th. Now, I love how they're trying to spin this situation as being something that could actually be good for students. Which is, it really is funny. I mean, just look at the title here. Colleges ask for a share of future salaries in lieu of loans. Now, to me, that sounds like it could be a bad thing. So, AP to the rescue to put your mind at ease. Now, of course, this is coming out of Montpelier, Vermont, and I'm surprised that Sticks, Hex, and Hammer 666 actually hasn't covered this. He may have, and I missed it, but yeah, this is a little screwed up here. As more student... Oh, so this is also by David Jordan, by the way. As more students balk at the debt loads they face after graduation, some colleges are offering an alternative. We'll pay for your tuition if you offer us a percentage of your future salary. Now, this right here should have people looking at it and thinking twice, because depending... because there's a lot of factors to why this could be a bad thing. And I'm trying to pick the most appropriate place to start, because I see a lot of things wrong with it. The thing is, depending on how they structure this, and it could vary from university to university, you could be stuck paying a set percentage of a set, of your salary, or your hourly, however you want to look at it. We'll just say your wages. And it could be over a set period of time. And if you're working a shit job and you make it to that point, you're paid off. Or it could be you're paying a percentage until it's all paid back, and you could end up seeing what amounts to indentured servitude. Then there's the fact of, where are they going to come up with this percentage of income? So, say someone ends up going for an engineering degree, and for whatever reason, we'll just say the economy is soft. Now, because of an engineering degree, you should, in theory, get a higher paid job. Is that person, if they're stuck working at Starbucks, going to have to say, if they said, all right, because you're picking this profession, this degree, discipline, you have to pay 15% of your income or 20% of your income. And they end up a barista. Do they still have to pay the 20%? Whereas someone with a woman's studies degree, they might say, okay, your degree's fucking useless. We know we're going to be getting a barista. So we're only going to charge you this percentage. And that's another factor you have to look at, is the different degrees. If someone goes and studies a dead language like Sanskrit, kind of fucking useless. So there's a lot of factors to this that are not even being looked at. They just try to make it sound like this is a good thing. Which, in essence, all they're doing is removing the middleman with the loan companies. That's all they're doing, is because these universities, a lot of them are for profit. And the whole idea is to maximize your profits. And if you can maximize your profits by cutting out the loan guys, you're going to do it. Norwich University announced Tuesday that it will become the latest school to offer this type of contract, known as an income share agreement. Oh, because you got to love the fucking... See, income share agreement. They're trying to portray this as like socialism. They're trying to portray this as one step closer to free education. Because you're getting the education, and if you get a shitty job, they're going to collect a certain percentage. Oh, God, this is so messed up. Norwich's program is starting out on a small scale, mainly for students who do not have access to other types of loans or those who are taking longer than traditional 8 semesters to finish their degree. So basically, they're preying on the people who are more likely to do something like this out of desperation. Because if you're going more than 8 semesters, you're either dumb as fuck and you're basically, or you're lazy and you're like the guy from PCU that was played by Jeremy Piven, and you're just chilling out there. If you're going 8 years otherwise, you're going for, say, if you're going for that long, we're talking what, doctorate? So those are academia types. The thing is you want to help your own, because usually people who go for doctorates like that would take something like this, yeah, they're going to be academia. And if you can get them into academia, they've already got, the university supporting them. There's just, I see these things and it just kind of drives me nuts with this one, because they try to make it sound like it's something that is actually good for the average person. And I mean, like I said, the people that are most likely to take advantage of this because they're in a situation that they'll sell their soul, kind of. I mean, if they don't have access to other types of loans or student loans or whatever, they're pretty friggin' desperate. And you're taking advantage of that. Norwich University is committed to offering this new way to help pay for college in a way that aligns incentives and helps reduce financial barriers to degree completion, said Lauren Wabi, the school's chief financial officer and treasurer. So basically, she's the money woman. And what Lauren is trying to make it sound like here is this is a good thing for them. Forget the fact that it's going to allow for us where we've cheapened an education, but raise the cost of it to cut out someone and increase our profitability. Because, if we can cut out those loan guys, we get more money in our coffers. This is so messed up. Only in Vermont would they try to make this sound like a good thing. It's indentured it could have very well amount to indentured servitude. Because indentured servitude, you work for so long, paying so much type of thing, until you paid off your debt. In contrast with traditional loans, in which students will simply pay down the principal and interest until there is nothing left, students with income share agreements pay back a percentage of their salary for a set period of time. Those touting the program say they give colleges greater incentives to help students find higher earning jobs after graduation, because a higher salary means the school may recoup its investment in a shorter period of time. Now, I love how they're trying to portray this like this, because these could all be different. It could be a set period of time. It could, regardless. Because to me, I'm seeing this be enacted in a way where, especially on disciplines where demand is high, salaries are high, you're going to want them to do this over a set period of, they're going to want to do this over a set period of time, no ifs, ands, or buts. That way, if they get that guy, that woman who's really raking it in, they're getting it for as long as possible. Because this shorter period of time thing doesn't make any sense, because they kind of contradict it later in the article with this whole, and I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but they contradict this because they talk about, well, what if someone ends up a barista? This will mean that they're not getting screwed. So what they're basically saying is it sounds like they want this to be kind of a double standard thing, where baristas only pay for, people with women's studies degrees, gender, whether it's just women's studies, gender studies, you know, Hispanic studies, black studies, Asian studies. Well, Asians, they don't usually go into Asian studies because they're going into engineering and medicine and those type of professions. But I think you get the idea. You know, if they end up, those people that will go into those type of disciplines ends up baristas, they get off without paying their fair share towards their education. Which brings up another thing that we're going to, as we get into another point in the story that I'm going to bring up. For some students, income share agreements are seen as less risky, especially if they end up in a lower paying jobs or struggle to find work after graduation. This is one point where they talk about that. This is good for them because, yeah, while students are unemployed or earning below a certain threshold, they don't have to pay anything back. Right, but does that time go against their paying back or not? I mean, there's a lot of things that are left out on how this is exactly going to work. And to me, it just stinks to high heaven that they're not mentioning these things, especially with the idea that most universities are there to make a profit. They're looking at the fact that all these students have ended up in indentured servitude to the loan companies because that's one debt that for whatever reason they decided with W in office, with Baby Bush, to make so that you couldn't write it off if you went bankrupt. I wonder why. Because we're going to make it so that everyone wants to go get a college education, and we'll put everyone in debt, and we'll make them indentured servants to us. Now the universities just want to get rid of those guys on the indentured servitude thing. They want to be the ones directly benefiting from it. Taking on the debt through a contract where you don't have to take on a debt per se, but instead will repay a portion of your future income, has a certain appeal to students when the concept is fully explained to them, said Claire McCann, Deputy Director for Education Policy at a New America Foundation. Well, of course, because you're telling them, hey, you don't have to pay today for something that you can pay for tomorrow, and depending on our little contract here, you could royally get fucked. Because if you make it big and you're getting paid bank, and because of your discipline, we've given you a higher percentage, we're going to make more money off of you than your freaking education cost. Because that's what I think they're looking at this. Because higher education in the United States has become a for-profit business. They would not be doing something like this if it was not about increasing their bottom line. There is no way a college would do this out of the kindness of their heart. It just would not happen. Yet, we've got AP and the shipwreck who wrote this blowing smoke up people's asses going, look at how great this will be. You only have to pay a percentage of your income. This is like when an employer goes to you and say, hey, look, I want to put you on salary. So that means, hey, if you work 35 hours or if you work 45 hours, you're going to get the same thing, but there won't be that much overtime. When an employer does that, you know they're full of shit. Because they're going to work your ass well past 45 hours. Because now they've got you locked in at a set rate for no matter how many hours they want to work you. This is no different. I mean, on that type of idea, it really isn't. And what gets me is of course, these kids, with their brains not fully developed, and the instant gratification society that we have, are going to think something like this is a good thing. It's easy to sell them on something like this. At that age, oh my God. This just made me think back to when I was in college. And you'd see all the credit card companies on campus going, oh yeah, you can buy stuff today, don't have to pay it back till tomorrow, till later on. They've become those sleazy credit card people on campus. Except the bill that they're sticking you with is going to be a hell of a lot larger. And depending on what type of contract you sign on, you could royally get fucked. But because employment and salary determine repayment, it's possible providers could be seen as discriminating against recipients who choose lower paying professions. Oh, God. So here's where the cultural Marxism comes in. This is what I was talking about, like, when I said we'll get into something earlier. Earlier when I said we'll get into something a little bit later. But the thing is, they're trying to make it sound like, yeah, they should do this for every freaking discipline. They should do this for New Age tarot card reading and basket weaving. Because they're, we got to make it fair. We got to have a quality of outcome. If, to me, this is like those programs that they have. A good example is a TV show was based around it in the 80s, and I believe it actually went into the 90s, but the TV show Northern Exposure. You have these communities, whether it's Alaska or other rural areas, even outside the United States, that say need doctors. So what they do is they agree to pay for medical school, your time during your residency, so on and so forth. And then you go work for them at a reduced rate, obviously, because, they pay for your education, your housing, and put food in your stomach and all that other stuff usually, because, when you do this, they usually cover everything. And then you go work for them for a set amount of time. And when you have something like that going on, there's a win-win to it. Yeah, you got someone signing away a lot of their I don't want to say freedom, but their ability to say go work someplace of their choosing. So they lose a bit of their freedom of choice. They have to work a particular job in a particular location. They got an education that they otherwise couldn't get because they couldn't afford, and the community gets a benefit of that initial investment on that person by paying for the education and everything else. Now, that's mutually beneficial. What they want here is for these universities to give women's studies degrees out and allow people to go be baristas and end up losing money. But they're in business to make money. Makes absolutely no sense. If income share agreement providers aren't careful, they can definitely see unintended consequences in discriminatory terms towards students. This is one of the biggest differences between income share agreements and federal student loans, McCann said. Federal loans offer the same terms to all borrowers, which is one of the problems with federal student loans, because you tell anyone they can go get a fucking college education, they're just going to throw it, on credit, and they go and they get stupid fucking degrees because they're 18 years old, and they're like, well, I'm going to go take this totally useless degree, and I'm one to talk, because unless I was willing to kiss ass and suck it up, getting a degree in history is useless, because if I didn't do those things, I can't work in academia. I knew that. So I said, well, shit, I have a better grasp on history, and I'll just deal with the real world. And for a while, like with the dot-com boom, I was doing IT work. That's what I did when I got out of college. Actually, I was doing it while I was in college. you know? So the thing is you look around and you deal with a situation. I made a choice based on the fact of, it wasn't like necessarily stupid kid, but it was like less practical. It was idealistic. So yeah, kind of stupid kid. Because I actually had intentions of maybe going to law school if I didn't, go into academia. I had different looks at things with this situation. I figured I had some options. And life with, the .com boom, it was like, hey, I'm making money and stupid kid stuff. And yeah, so. But the thing is, a lot of people aren't going to have a situation if they get a degree where it doesn't say almost guarantee them a job. Like engineering, computer science. These type of degrees don't necessarily, guarantee wasn't the right word. They help you. Because these are more in demand professions. They help you on attaining employment. So being in business, why wouldn't these universities say, oh, you want to study black studies, you want to study women's studies, you want to study touchy-feely, you want to study this, that, and the other thing? Okay, well, we're not going to do this with you. They should have a right to do that. But they're saying, well, they might discriminate. No, it's about making money. It's not discrimination. If you've got this concept of fucking la-la land and you're going to go get this totally useless degree, why the hell should they end up footing the majority of the bill when they know you're going to end up a barista or working at fucking Walmart? Please explain. That's not discrimination. But the cultural Marxists here are saying, well, they should do this for everyone, regardless of the degree. And they go, but see, this is one benefit of federal loans. They don't discriminate. No, maybe they should discriminate. Federal loans on education, to an extent, used to discriminate on what you wanted to go to school for. Because there was this concept on student loans that why would they give you a loan on an education that isn't going to benefit you? That's like giving you a $500,000 loan on a house worth $100,000. And in this case, giving you $100,000 on an education that's worth $5. Because in the real world, you could earn, say, a couple bucks here and there shooting the shit with someone, but you're never going to get a real job with one of these bullshit disciplines. Income share agreements were first proposed by Milton Friedman in 1955, and Yale University briefly experimented with the idea back in the 1970s. Which, you notice they don't talk about their little brief experiment. They just mention it. Well, it was briefly experimented with. Well, why was it brief? Oh, because it fucking didn't work? Could that be why? I'm going to say that's most likely the case. In the past decade, technical training programs such as coding boot camps have used this type of funding largely because participants do not have access to federal student loans. Why do they not have access to federal student loans? Because coding boot camps are not something that you can get a student loan for education-wise. Let's be honest about that. So, in order for these for-profit coding boot camps, as in businesses, to make money, they do something like this. It's like the idea of it's no different than an ambulance chasing attorney. The type that you're rolling into the hospital, they've already got the heads up from someone and they're waiting for you as you're getting rolled into the emergency room and they're telling you, hey man, there's money in this, sign here, and you're signing a contract type of thing. No different than that. It literally isn't. In 2015, Oakton, Virginia-based Vimo Education began working with accredited colleges and universities. The company now works with nearly 30 public and private colleges and universities across the country, including Norwich University. Aha! So basically, what we have here, and I love this part, because they're now admitting that, well, this is the universities. No, it isn't. Then you notice they put this further down. It's actually a private for-profit business that is working with the universities, and it sounds like to me they're acting as the intermediary. So it isn't even the universities that are necessarily going to make more money off of this. I'm sure they think they might, and they might compared to student loans, because obviously if they formed a business partnership, they're getting something on the back end. But I'm assuming that Vimo Education is the one that's doing most of the legwork here, so they're probably going to get a good chunk of the money. See, this is just fucked up. This is just basically a way to exploit those people they can't exploit. Because they don't have the money and they don't qualify for loans and things like that. Vimo's first partnership was with Purdue University. It began financing the school's back-to-boiler income share agreement program in 2016. Andrew Hoyler, 22, graduated from Purdue last year with a degree in professional flight with a goal of becoming a pilot. Now he's working as a pilot for American Airlines regional carrier PSA Airlines. And if you go and look, pilots make, especially on these regional carriers of, like, say, American stuff, like, they make jack fucking shit. This guy spent a fortune on a college education to become a pilot, to make shitty fucking pay working for a regional carrier of American Airlines, when instead he could have joined the United States military, like the Navy or the Air Force, went into their pilot training program, had his education paid for, and wouldn't have even needed to get the education because he would have had on-the-job training from the United States military. But instead he went to Purdue, a very pricey institution, and racked up, I'm sure, 6 figures worth of debt. One of the biggest pros for the income share agreement was the fact that out-of-college pilots do not make a lot of money, especially looking at the cost for an educational program, Hoyler said. No, but you would have probably made more money if you went into the United States military to become a pilot. Coming out of the military for, the same amount of friggin' time? You could have went into the military for 3 or 4 years, walked out with money in your pocket, the training and education that you needed to become a pilot commercially, and you wouldn't be 6 figures in debt, paying a percentage. Well, actually, you're partially in debt and you did this part of it, but paying part of your salary. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is just so messed up. The terms can vary, notably the length of the agreement and the salary percentage. Hoyler is currently paying back 8% of his income. Since future salary is generally unpredictable, it can be difficult to forecast how much a student will pay back over time, although most agreements do place a cap on the amount paid back. Okay, so here's the thing. They're saying not all. This is why they're throwing this shit at the end. This is going to be exploited. This is going to be like the subprime housing market bubble type of a situation, because now they can finally exploit those last few people, that small percentage of the population that, through hook or crook, through even fiddling with numbers, like a sleazy car salesman, they couldn't even get them student loans. Now they'll be able to exploit them. It's so fucked up. And there's not even a a guarantee of a cap on the amount paid back. So if you've got someone who's lucky enough to strike it big, and they've got, 20% of their income or 10% of their income going out, and they score a six-figure-a-year job out of sheer luck or will or skill or whatever, and there's no cap, and they have to pay over so many years, that's a lot of friggin' money. Hoyler took out Hoyler took out federal loans, but said the income share agreement helped him avoid working multiple jobs while starting out last year as a flight instructor. Hoyler said he may end up paying more for the income share agreement in the long run as his salaries rise, but deemed it a worthy trade-off. So yeah, this is another thing. This is another thing. See, this is why they throw this at the end. He's even admitting, well, I could end up paying more money. This is like a payday loan. This is the payday loan of education. It's disgusting. Oh my God. It's a worthy trade-off that I'll pay more money and I'm an indentured servant. Okay. For students who can't make ends meet with scholarships, grants, and federal loans, income share agreements can meet that need for students who otherwise would turn to federal loans, to parents, or private loans. The schools are doing it now because they want alternative financing models, said Vimo CEO Tonio Di Sorrento. The schools are doing it now. It's not because they want alternative financing models for this altruistic, let's make sure people have access to education type of thing. It's about getting those people, as I've already said, who couldn't afford an education, that luckily through that wouldn't end up getting fucked by the education, the higher education system we have, getting fucked by it. That's the whole motive behind it. It's disgusting. It's vile. And anyway, I covered this well enough, so I'm just going to leave things here. If you liked this video, depending on where you are watching it, please give it an upvote or thumbs up. If you want to know when new content of mine hits the internet, don't forget to subscribe to one or more of my social media or video accounts listed here. Also, with YouTube, don't forget to ring that bell. You can find all of my video content on both BitChute and YouTube. This may not be the case with other places I upload to, but I will try to minimize this happening. You are always welcome to interact with me at any of these sites on the list, so feel free to do so. If you have anything you want me to cover in a video, when it comes to news or current events, send it right along to me. I will try to do my best to cover it. As always, thank you for watching.